मोहे मरने ना जाओ। मरो तार के द्वार, मोहे मरने ना जाओ। मरो तार के द्वार, मत हर पूछे कौन है, मत हर पूछे कौन है, पर हमारे बार मोहे मरने का कबीर ना हम किया ना करेंगे, ना कर सके शरीर, ना हम किया ना करेंगे, ना कर सके शरीर। क्या जानो किछ हर किया, भयो कबीर कबीर, भयो कबीर कबीर। कबीर सुपने हूँ करनाए के, जे मुख निक से राम, सुपने हूँ करनाए के, जे मुनिक से राम। ताके पग ही पान ही, ताके पग की पान ही, मेरे तन को जान। माटी के हम पुतरे, मानस राखे ना। कबीर माटी के हम पुतरे, मानस राखे ना। 4 दिवस के पौने, 4 दिवस के पौने, बड़ बड़ बूढ़े खाओ, बड़ बड़ बूढ़े खाओ। कबीर मैंने कर खा लिया, आप पेशाए पेशाए। तै सह बात न पूछिए, कबू न लाही पाए। कबीर जय दरियावत जाते हो, हट के नाही कोए। सोदर कैसे छोड़िए, जो दर ऐसा होए। कबीर डूबा था मैं उभरे हो, गुन की लहर चभाक। जब देखे बेड़ा जर जरा, तब उतर परे हो पारक, तब उतर परे हो पारक। कबीर पापी भगत न भावई, हर पूजा ना सुहाए। माखी चांदन पर हरे, जे बेगंध तह जाए। कबीर वैद मुआ रोगी मुआ, मुआ सब संसार। एक कबीरा नाम हुआ, जय नहीं ओवणहार। कबीर राम न ख्यायो, दी लागी खोर काया हांडे काठ के नाओ चरे बहोर नाहो चरे बहोर मोहे मरने का जाओ है मरो तो हर के द्वार मत हर पूछे कौन है पर हमारे वार पर हमारे last week Kabir ji hinted, gave us an idea, and that thought is carried forward in this week's topic. The last week, the statement was, Kabir, na mohe chan na chapari, na mohe ghar nahi gao, mat har puche kaun hai, mere jaat na nao. Because Kabir, as an evolved soul on this earth, denied his own name, did not say that I am not Kabir. He did not accept that. He says, because the Kabir word literally translated means the greater than the greatest. And because the mother had named him Kabir, all through his life, his effort was to then explain the meaning of the word Kabir. He's not explaining about himself. So he refuses that, he denies that. He says, Kabir mohe chan na chapri, I have no place to whom I belong. I have no address, I have no home, I have no town, I have no name. So much that if when I appear in front of my Creator, he will be wondering, who's here? And I would have no answer. If my Creator was to question me, ask me, who is this who is visiting me today? I would have no answer. Now this is not a contrived humility as we use it. We try to act humble. But our humility is a reverse form of ego. We act humble, but in the message behind usually is, look at me, how great I am. Because I am great, still I am acting humble. That's our message normally. Where Kabir is saying, forget about the world. There is nothing for me to share with the world. I'm talking of the ultimate Creator. Everybody in front of the Creator is humble, is small. So there is nothing to say there. You can't even act. In front of a human being, you can act. You can say, I have never heard a father telling his son that he ever failed any class. They were all monitors. They all was A grades. They all stood first in the university. They all broke records. I have never heard any father talking to his child and saying, this subject I was weak. Never happened. And we can do that. We play that game. But if that game was to be played in front of our own Maker, then we would not need to declare it. That message will already be known. Because ego, which is the basic barrier between the Creator and the creation, the whole emphasis is recognize this game, recognize this play, recognize this drama, that you have taken yourself as if you are something different, as if you are something separate. I was visiting Chicago this week, and a college mate whom I had not seen for 40 years showed up there. And somebody had warned him that I am now not talking on the topics that I used to talk in college. And the first question out of him to me was, then tell me just one, what is the correct way of praying to the Creator? What have you learned in our 40 years? How do we pray? What's the right way of prayer? And the first statement out of my mouth was that there is no way to pray. Because when you say, how should I pray to Him, the very foundation, the basic foundation is wrong. You have taken the first step, which is wrong. Because I and Him, the one who is doing the praying, the one who is being prayed to, they have been established as two different entities. And since you are starting with that assumption that that entity is different than what you are, this drama will continue ad infinitum and you will never understand the real play. So naturally now you can see what the next logical question is going to be. But I am separate. But I am different. I'm not God. Wouldn't that be blasphemous to say that I am God? And that's what today's topic, Kabir, is hinting also at. So I shared with him a parable. When that question was asked, how did the mystic answer that question? He took the disciple to the ocean and took a earthen pot with it, clay pot. So he says, this clay pot, if I leave it in the water, it's going to melt and will sink in it. He said, yeah, okay. Let's not leave it there. Take the pot and sinks it in the ocean water. Naturally the water goes into the pot, pot is filled with water. So leaving the pot inside it, the mystic asked the disciple, he says, the water that you see inside the pot and outside the pot, is this water different? Well, the answer is obvious. No, it's not different. Also, you agree that the water is the same. He said, yes, the water is the same. He pulls the pot, put it on the side. He said, is this water now different than that water? Now, obviously, you can see, it says, no, it's the same. It tastes the same. Its composition is the same. All the chemical impurities are the same. Everything is the same. Also, it still is a different. It's the same. He says, yes. He said, now let me cover it. So he covers that. Now he cannot see the water. He said, now what do you see? He said, I see the pot. Is pot different than the ocean? He said, absolutely. There is no hint that the water is in there. All you see from the outside is that vessel, that container. And each container, depending upon its shape and the size and the characteristics, will claim to be different. But is it? What is contained in it, is it different? The fact that we don't see what is in it, we only see the container. And the whole focus, whole argument, whole discussion is about the container. All of the fights, all of the disagreements are about the properties of the container, not the content. Because the content is totally ignored now because it is invisible. And that's the difference between a manmukh and a gurmukh. That's the difference between the one who's on the path and one who's not. One who's on the path constantly seeks the content, forgetting the container. What is inside? What makes me tick? What makes me work? What makes me successful? What makes me laugh? What makes me talk? What makes me live? What makes me breathe? The denial of that, more we deny, more we get further away from it, more we get attached to the outer world, more we start recognizing that, more we see the inner world. And Kabir, in the next stanza, comes back and hammer at it even more. He did that. Well, anyway, we continued. We met at about 6 o'clock until about 10 o'clock. We continued about this, and eventually it became information overload. And there's no other joke to tell. It's getting very boring. We met after 40 years, and what are we talking about? And I could see, and that's what we were sharing earlier, that if you get hooked with this, then the other becomes meaningless. And if you are hooked with the other, this becomes meaningless. To a lot of the people, well, what it would be, what is this people talking about? And Kabir will hammer at that also. And he says, Kabir, मोहे मरने का चाव है, मरो तो हर के द्वार, मत हर पूछिए कौन है, परा हमारे बात. The first stanza was, Kabir mohe chan na chapri, mohe ghar nahi gao. First he is saying about this world. Say, I have no home, I have no address, I have no name, no shape, no form. And even the word Kabir is not mine. Because he says, Kabira tu, Kabir tu, tero naam Kabir. He says, you are Kabir. Your name is Kabir. My mother was totally mistaken when she called me Kabir, because I am not that. And now, first he talked about, Mat har puche kaun hai, mere jaat na now, I have no name. So what would I say? What would I tell? In the next statement he says, okay, if I don't have any identification while I'm living in this world, do I have identification when I go there? When I drop this container, when I am free of this container, would I have identity then? And that's a question that you can very easily see through where he's leading up to. That if you take a look at this drop, that's a part of the stream, and the stream is flowing toward the ocean. So if this is the boundary of the ocean, and the stream comes in and stands at the boundary, that drop has an identity. You can say this is a drop and that's the ocean. But if the drop was to fall inside the ocean, now what will happen? Is the ocean now bigger by one drop? Can I pull that drop out? Can I identify that drop? Can that drop say, I am still a drop? So he says, look at this from that mystical state of existence. In this world, while I'm alive, I'm locked in this container. I have no name, no fame, no shame, nothing. Positive, negative, a drop. I have no address, I have no home. I'm not a Ford or a Rockefeller. Okay, so that's this world. But what happens to the next world? And the next statement, that's what he says. Kabir mohe marne ka chao hai. Now this death is not physical in nature he's talking about. He's saying, when I die to that world also, where marota har ke dwar. Har means the ultimate creator. Dwar means his door. He says, if I drop into that ocean, har ke dwar, if I drop into that, now what will happen? He says, mat har puche kaun hai para hamare bar. He says, there is no way I'm going to be able to answer even that question, because that I will not exist anymore. The questioner and the answer, the observed and the observer would have merged. There would have been no distinction left. In the physical form, somebody may still say, this is Kabir, because the container is still there. But once the container drops, now what? We discussed this a number of times. What is the ultimate answer to this? And my response usually is, you never get the answer. Nobody has ever been able to get the answer to that question. Only the questioner has died. The questions have dropped. The answer has never come back. That's why it is called a mystery. A puzzle can be solved. But if a mystery is solved, then is it a mystery anymore? The word mystery comes from mysticism, mystics, that's why they are called, those people who stay in that, that's why they are called mystics. And the life is a mystery. And the Creator is a mystery. And the creation is a mystery. You can only marvel at it. You can only feel absolutely overwhelmed and overjoyed that you are part of that mystery, but you can never ever solve the mystery. Because if you did, then if this was a false mystery, then it should not have been called a mystery. It should have been called a parable or some mathematical scientific composition or a puzzle to decipher, not a mystery. The definition of the word mystery is that it can never ever be solved. And he tries to answer that mystery in such a beautiful, poetic way. He says that the difference, why do we think we are different? Now we talked last week a little bit later on that when we hear in the Western world that everybody is a born sinner, and I was trying to share that thought as to how is everybody, what did it really mean? Because the awareness, the knowledge, eating the fruit from the tree of knowledge, the first awareness between Adam and Eve was the difference between their bodies. That's why and the story says they became aware of their shame, their nakedness. So they went and found a fig leaf and covered themselves. What does this mean? The first knowledge of what? You are a man and I am a woman. You are different than I. So now two I have established. The boundary has been established. The content has disappeared. The container has become important. Hence the ego. That I, that is the original sin. That's the first sin. And every human has that. As soon as born, that container is given a name, I is born. And more emphasis on the I, more distance from him, or her, or it, whatever you want to call it. In the today's political correct word, I don't want to say that whether he is a man or a woman or something else. An energy, a force, howsoever you define it. The difference is because of the emphasis on the container, not the content. And that was the original sin, and everybody suffers from that sin. And when the statement was that Jesus died for the sin, what it meant was his own ego, as soon as he declared, thy will be done, on the cross, in front of the world, he declared, thy will be done. That I died. That's what dying for the sin means. And that's what Kabir is saying. He says, I died. If I die, this container drops, I would go to the ultimate house's door, then what would he say? Who is this? You see, there would be no identification. There would be no label left. Because if the label is left, then I is still there. Because I remember when we were studying physics, and one of the discussion in college time used to be, can you ever touch your own finger? Can you touch a hand? Now looking from the outer world, yes, the finger is touching the hand. A scientist will tell you that you have not touched the hand. There will always be. You can only be approaching when they teach you the calculus, integral calculus, and those of you, if you remember your mathematics, that you can only approximate, you can only get closer to it. There will always be a delta. You will never ever reach the ultimate touch point. Your hand will never touch your finger. It's just getting closer to it. Because the distance is so microscopic that your senses are not refined enough to feel that distance. That means so long as there is the identity of a hand and a finger, they will be separate. They can never merge. But if they were to touch really, they will become one. Einstein spent his entire life trying to explain this concept of relativity to the rest of the world, and he could not communicate. In his final days, he turned to the mysticism. He himself became a mystic. He says, now I understand. Because he could not communicate the relativity. That what we are locked into is a world of relativity. And we keep on talking as if this is absolute. It isn't absolute. And Kabir is saying, he goes on to look how he tries to lift our misunderstanding about this. What he says, Kabir, next statement, Kabir na hum kiya na karenge na kar sake shareer. Now if you read it it looks as if Kabir is saying hum means I. As if Kabir is saying, I have not done anything. Now if you read this more carefully, he is not talking about himself at all. See, that's what happens when the words of a mystic falls in the hands of a scientist. They analyze it grammatically and they forget the symbolism hidden in it. If you look at the statement in totality, what is saying? Kabir na hum kiya na karenge. Hum, I, that ego. Something that is egoistic cannot do anything. It has no meaning. Something doing by the doer, so long as the doer is there, has no significance. Only in this world it means something. None of us can meet our maker and say, I did this, I did this, I did this. Because that has no significance in that world. You may be able to talk to your children or your friends or your boss that I did this, I did that. There it has a significance. Because in the world of mystics, the word I has no significance. If I is there, then they will tell you, you need to go sit back and get rid of this I first. There is a Arabian Night story, beautifully illustrating this point, that there is dust storm as sand dust storm comes in the desert. It's dark night, dust storm blowing all over the place. And somebody knocks on the outside. Somebody asks from inside, who is it? And the outside voice comes, I'm your lover. And the answer comes back, there's nobody here who knows you. Go away. That's what he's saying. The outside voice hears the message. There's nobody who knows you. Go away. Go away. After a few months or years, he comes back, knocks on the door again. Same question. Who's there? Now the answer is, your lover. And the answer comes back. There's no lover that lives here. Go away. And the outside goes away again. Third time he comes back, knocks on the door, same question, who is there? This time there is no answer. Again knock, who is there? No answer. Third time knock, who is there? No answer. The door opens. See the parable. The first time he comes, he says, I am your lover. So I exist and you exist. And the voice says, there's nobody here. You have not understood the concept of love. When the lovers have that level of boundary, where you are you and I am I, the love cannot be. Kabir says at one place about love, and defines the love so beautifully. He says, पोथी पढ़ पढ़ जग मुआ, ज्ञानी हुआ ना कोई, ढाई अक्षर प्रेम का पढ़े तो ज्ञानी होए. Now, he's playing with the words in Hindi, in that language. Love word is prem. And the way the prem is written is pa, and there is a half word, ra, half, and then ma. He says now तीन अक्षर नहीं होते, प्रेम अढ़ाई है. And beautifully, I really marvel at the intensity of the insight in here. He says, what is the prem? Pa representing one, ma representing the other. And then something, when they meet, something happens. But that's half. It always remains incomplete. It never completes. तीन बनते नहीं. प्रेमी और प्रेम का मिलते तो हैं. प्रेम पैदा होता है मगर खत्म नहीं होता, कंप्लीट नहीं होता, अधूरा रह जाता है. So he says ढाई अक्षर, so 2.5. Understand why it is 2.5. Why it isn't 2? Why it isn't 3? It's 2.5. Because the lover and the beloved created something. They started something. And it is never ever going to complete now. It's never going to end. It's going to remain half. Always incomplete. That's the definition of love. So in that parable, he comes in first, he says, I am your lover. He says, go back. Second time he comes, he understands, he drops himself, but you are there. Your lover. He doesn't use the word I, but he says, your lover. He says, go back. There's nobody here, beloved. And he comes back third time. Now neither you exist nor I exist. There is no way to declare it. There is no way to declare the absence. Only presence can be declared. So he says, now you have disappeared, I have disappeared. Both are one. There is nothing to declare now, except to be in each other's presence. Just in each other's presence. Have you ever noticed? Why is there that the lovers always want to be alone? And they usually don't talk. They just sit. What does it mean? Just being in that space. That's what the enjoyment, that's what the exchange is. That silent exchange is the true exchange. And that's what Kabir here is saying, na hum kiya, that so long I is there, he says nothing important. Na hum kiya, na karenge, he says it cannot be done. People are mistaken, and he even further eliminates the confusion and says, na kar sake sharir. Container is what the ego is. Container identifies the individuality. He says, so long as there is individuality, nothing can be done. Anything of significance cannot be done. Now this is absolutely gibberish for those who are absolutely involved as a karma yogi. Say, what is this nonsense? I get up, I work, I do, I earn, I make these homes, what do you mean nothing can be done? But Kabir says, this is what did you see being done is totally irrelevant, insignificant in the world of mysticism. These are toys as the children play. You go on the beach and the children start making the sand castle. You play. All day they are making the sand castles. In the evening on the way back, with the same pleasure as they made it, with the same pleasure they break it up. They will hit with their own foot and will destroy the entire thing. So if somebody asks at the end of the day, what's the meaning of this all? What is the significance? No, I play, have fun, that's it. There's no purpose of this. He says that the life without the journey to that ultimate ocean has no significance. It's not important. The importance is given by us. I wonder many times, what is the purpose of having a necktie? What purpose does it serve? Shirt does something, pant does something, okay. What does tie do? But look at that. Who has added the value to that? The tie means something. Some market here, it looks good. Looks good to whom? I feel joke. It can be weapon. It can work against you. Somebody can really strangle you using your time. So is this your armament or is it a way to punish you? But we add significance to absolutely insignificant things. And you can actually see through the life, and if you were ever in that moment of mystical awareness, if you are to question what's the purpose of this? What's the meaning of this? And you'll be surprised as to how easy it is to drop this. It's not significant enough. What are we arguing about? What are we fighting about? What is this whole issue about? And if you were to step back from it, you will not find it more than a child to play. An ego hooked on something. If you prove me wrong today, how big a deal it is? If I prove you wrong today, how big a deal is that? But we spend our entire life trying to do that, exactly. Isn't that, what is the drama of social life? Children trying to prove parents wrong, parents trying to prove children wrong, wife trying to prove husband wrong, husband trying to prove wife wrong, friends trying to prove the other friends wrong, businessman trying to prove the other businessman wrong. Isn't that the whole drama? And Kabir says, what is the significance? Why don't you understand this? So long as the focus is on what? Sharir. Understand Sharir, why those who have it, look, R, he underlines the word R. He says the container focus, so long as the container is focused, it has no significance. Now look where he goes with this. He says, but something did happen. And what happened? He says, Kya jano kich har kiya bhayo Kabir Kabir. He says, this is mystery to me. Now watch the word, those who has this. Kabir is also underlined in this particular statement. Why is Kabir underlined here and not our others? The Jnanis won't tell you that. He's saying that something that Creator did that this container, because here the word Kabir is not the mistake. First Kabir, when he says Kabir na hum kiya na kare, that Kabir is not underlined, right? The Kabir at the end is underlined. So there has to be a significance. Why he is doing this? First Kabir is the statement of a mystic who has evolved. And his evolution says what? Na hum kiya, na karenge, na kar sake shari. This is the statement of a mystic. Now he comes back to the other side and says, Na jana, kya jano kuch har kiya. He says that ultimate game player, that magician did something. I have no clue what. Then what happened? He says, Bhayo Kabir, Kabir. Everybody is talking of this container. And I am hammering, I am saying to them, I am yelling at them, this container has no significance. If something is happening, it's not this container's doing, it's somebody else's doing. It is what I am doing, it is somebody else who's doing. Because I, the doer, is no more. I, the doer, has dropped in that ocean and is no more separate than that ocean. And he says, how? Now, the natural curiosity would be, how did you get there? Okay, we accept that you didn't do it. Somebody else did it. There is an energy behind that's doing it. But we are curious. We need to do the same thing. We have that desire. We want to have that blissfulness. Is there a hint about this? He says, yeah. What is the hint? He says, Kabir, next statement. Supne hum baradaye ke jit mukh nikse ram. Now look how he says, this is not a child's play. And the example he is using, the parable he is using, he says, when you are dreaming, whether it is a good dream or a bad dream, whether it's a nightmare or a pleasurable dream, it doesn't matter. He says, when you are in a dream and you wake up from a dream, normally what happens to mortals like me? If it's a good dream, I want to go to the bathroom, come back, and I want to continue. I want to call back, hoping that dream will continue. I don't want to wake up. Isn't it? Now, that's a sleep. What's happening when I'm awake and I'm enjoying the life? The money is good, the friends are good, the power is good, and I'm having the fun of life. Do I want to end? The party is going full bloom and the band is playing and I'm dancing the night off. Do I want the night to end? What is happening here? Container is absolutely convinced that the content is not significant anymore. The shape and the form and the sound that's coming out of the container is what is all this out to it. Let's be there. In a Sufi sect, there is a sect, their prayer is always ends with this. You'll be surprised. The prayer ends, "Oh God, never ever make me happy, so that I may not forget you. Keep me tight enough. Keep me at least this much pain that I don't forget you." Mind-boggling, right? We all pray. Give happiness and give children and give this and give that and happy and healthy and this and that. The Muslims pray 5 times. And 5 times in the day, that Sufi saint ends the prayer with it, "Don't ever make me that happy that I forget you." And Kabir is saying, "Supne hu barayake." Waking up out of the dream. What should be the first word? When you are not completely awake, you are semi-sleep and semi-awake. He says, if the word out of your mouth is the name of that ultimate creator, if the memory and the passion and the obsession has gone so deep in your consciousness that waking or sleeping, forget about that. He says, not even dreaming. If that word has gone so deep into the consciousness that your dream even is of that, he says, I tell you what, taake pag ki panhi mere tan ko jaan. He says, I am willing for that soul to give the skin of my body so that he can make a shoe and wear it. That is how high a reverence, that's how high a value he places on the entity who understands the mystery of this. Now, it's a parable. He's using it as an example. Now, those of you who have studied the Freudian theory, you know what he said about the dreams. He said the dreams are the suppressed memories of the day that could not be done. The mind and creates that drama inside so that you can live that what you could not live while alive, while awake. But if there was nothing else to be lived, so then there is nothing else to be suppressed. So the dreams are not of what I couldn't do the day. The dream is of the same, what I am living with, what I am breathing. He says, but it doesn't happen. He immediately comes back to the reality of the physical life and goes on to say, Kabir mati ke hum putre. And that was the example what we started with. He says, what is this? Now the word he is using is dust, the clay. He says, as a potter takes the clay and molds into different shapes and forms and then gives them a name. This is a statue, and this is a dog shape, and this is this shape, and this just takes clay and molds it. He says that creator, that magician, that mystical energy has taken a clay and molded it into some shapes. And one of the shape is named a human. And what has happened to that human? Has he forgotten that? Totally become oblivious that you are nothing more than a shape. You just have a different name. You are not called a fish, you are not called a dog, you are not called a cat, you are called a human. That's the only difference. Otherwise, the body, that shape, is coming from the same dust. Now when a cow dies, you can burn the body the same way and it will go back to the dust. And a mystic used to give that example. He says, look, at least the animal body, while alive, is beneficial. Not only that, when it dies, it's beneficial. This whole idea of, in India, don't kill the cow, which became a totally distorted concept. Where did it come from? Because the cow is a domesticated animal. While alive and fertile, gives the milk. So it's a source of food. When not fertile, is used in the fields as a domesticated animal. And when dies, the skin is used for the clothing and the shoes. From the start of the life cycle to the end of the life cycle, that animal was part of the economic structure of the country. Why would you want to destroy such a useful animal for one simple thing, which is the meat? So the concept was given, Look at the totality of it rather than a short term, so don't kill a cow. Nobody understood what the message was, and it took a totally different form. And Kabir is saying, look at your container, look at your body. What is this? Kabir, mati ke ham putre, manas rakhyo now. We are the statues made out of that clay. Named Manas means human. And what's the destiny? He says, Char Devas ke pahane bad runde tha. So what is the span of life? Few years. Char Devas does not literally mean 4 days. It is a limited lifespan. Eventually you're going to go back to the same place where you came from. So if you have this container and you know the container is absolutely destined to go down into the dust, then why are you not taking advantage of this container? Why are you just emulating the lifestyle of a cow or a buffalo or a bull or a dog or a cat? Because what they are doing is what you are doing. I mean, it's amazing. I made that statement to, we were 4 friends from the same college we met in Chicago. And I made that statement and they immediately said, now you are insulting us. And you're calling us animals, even worse than animals. How our ego is hurt so quickly. Actually, if you look at the society, we have tried to do everything opposite to the animal world. Look at it. Animals don't worry about the body, we worry about our body. We wear clothes, animals don't. Animal watch a dog, he will take a food and will run and eat alone. He doesn't want anybody to see. We actually invite the people we want to eat in public. Look at that. Everything you can see that you can build on the examples and you can see whatever happens in the animal world, we have tried to do exactly in the opposite way. Because we feel insulted. And if we want to tell somebody bad, we say he's behaving like a dog, he's behaving like a cat, he's behaving like a bull, he's behaving like a jackass. We give the examples as if, and we wonder that we are not that. If we stay with that type of thinking, the soul's evolution is impossible. Every saint has hammered that thought. So long as you deny your own reality, what you really are inside, so long as you are in a denial, you are not going to get on that path. It doesn't mean that you should go into the guilt feeling now, that I'm so bad, I'm so bad, I'm so bad. So how do I get rid of this bad? Well, either I go to sleep, I put my body to sleep, or I go and do mindless, meaningless rituals. None of that. He says, just remember that you have a container which has the potential, and you can use that potential, and he builds that on as soon as, first he reminds us that it's a container, Kabir mati ke ham putre, and in the next statement he says, yes, you can use it. How? Kabir mehndi kar ghalya, aap pisaye pisaye, teh seh baat na puchiye, kabhu na lai paaye. Mehndi. He's using that word because mehndi is henna. Now the ladies use it for color, and it is considered ceremonial also. Do a lot of decorations nowadays in the West also. You probably have seen that the decorating of the hands and the legs and the face has become quite a fashion now. But he's not using it in that sense. Because Mehndi is color. And he used the word Mehndi earlier to give us, if you look at the Shloka 57 and 56, he talked about that. He talked about Kabir, Hardi Piri Chuna Ujjal Bhai. Next statement, Kabir, Hardi Pirtan Hare Chun Chehn Na Rahai. He's using the spotless and with spot, color and white. Color he is using to indicate the outer world, and the white he is using to indicate the inner world. So he says what is going on? Mehndi kar khaliya. As soon as a human is born, the whole effort of the society becomes to absorb the human into the outer world. Mehndi kar khaliya. Go, become colorful like the world is. And we keep on hammering. And we have talked about this. None of us parents wants our children to become a mystic. We are not mystic. We don't want our children to be mystic. We are engineers or doctors. We want our children to be engineers or doctors. If any child was to get attracted to this, we would probably not be very happy. Because we have built some dreams around it, hopes around it. And particularly in the Eastern culture, the children are the only social security. There is no government check coming in. So you depend upon a lot of this, and that's how the consciousness has evolved. He says that's what the whole world is doing. At Kabir, Mehndi kar khaliya. Have the color, and we are making ourselves colorful and our offspring colorful. Mehndi kar khaliya, aap pisaye. We keep on hammering on to the same thought. Taisa baat na poochiye, kabhu na laaye. Nobody wants to talk about that, discuss about that, or hear about that. Is there something more than to this life? When does that question come into any human being's mind? And almost invariably in the entire history, this one thing has been a consistent pattern. As soon as a human mind-body system gets hammered by or disappointed by one of the three, either he is hammered by the society, or he is hammered by the family, or he has heard the word of a evolved soul. And that's what we say in Parivar, Sansar, Karta. Parivar di chot, Sansar di chot, ya Kartar di chot. If you are not touched by any one of them, the three, you would not think of the content. You will always stay on the focus on the content. And that's why, and it's amazing that this thing what forces us to ask, is this all about this? I build this hope around this. Whether it is the disappointment from the family or whether it is disappointment from the society, friends, and you sit back and say, is this what it is? And what's the purpose of life? Is this all this way? I thought it was this. Why it has turned out to be that? Otherwise, the human mind-body system does not ever even ask the question. And that's what Kabir is saying. He says, "Tain sah baat na poochiye." Nobody talks about Tain sah, that creator. Nobody even discusses that. Kabuna Life never turns around and say, what is this all about? Now when that query starts, what happens then? So you see how thought is evolving and developing. These things are not random. He says if that query starts, then what happens? say, Kabir Jahdar avat jateo hatke nahi koi. Now you can see, as I was sharing with you earlier, that whether if he went to Islam, he was hammered back. He went to the yogas, he was hammered back. He went to Hindus, he was hammered back. And he, very early age, in the childhood, he understood. Everybody says, you don't belong here. And he says, I discovered something. So there's one place, one state of being, one state of existence, where you are never turned away. That door never says you don't belong here. And I always share this parable with you, that somebody had this big feast going on, and a very poor looking person, simple, was walking by, and this rich person who was having the feast called him and said, you also sit down and join in the festivity. So he sat down. He brought the food in front of him, and as soon as he put the food, the guy was hungry, he wanted to eat. But the host stopped him. Says, don't you think you are forgetting something? He says, what did I forget? You invited, I came, you are giving me food, I'm going to eat. He says, no, wait a minute. You have not, you don't look like that you have eaten for a few days. Shouldn't you be thanking where this food came from? Shouldn't you be grateful? Shouldn't you express that thankfulness? And he got up from his seat. He said, thank you very much. I'm going my way. What did I say wrong? All I'm saying is, shouldn't you be grateful? He said, well, I have one problem with this. What's that problem? He said, I'm 50 years old. He has always given me food and had never asked me to thank him. You seem to be bigger than him. You are telling me that I cannot eat without thanking. He never stopped me. So you seem to be even thinking that you are bigger than him. I don't want to eat food here with you. That's the only place. Let's think of ourselves. If we know that there is a murderer out there and he is hungry and we have the food, would we be giving him the food knowing what he does or he doesn't do? Now the question is, doesn't he know that he is a murderer? Does he stop feeding him, giving him the air, giving him the water, giving him the life? So if we are striving, if our pull is to feel what it is like to be merging in one, shouldn't we be thinking about as to those things? And he says, Kabir says, he has discovered that secret. What is that secret? Kabir Jahdar avat jateo hatke nahi koi. He says, there's one place where you are never stopped. Nobody stops you as to why you are going there. You are not worthy of this. Nobody tells you that. And see, if there is such a place, Sodar kaise chodiye? He says, then that's the only place I want to be. Why would I leave that place? Because that's the one where I'm always welcome. No matter who I am, what my characteristics are, what are my faults are, what my qualities are, it absolutely matters not. It matters everywhere else. There's only one place where it doesn't matter. I say that's the only place that one should hold on to, one should strive to. So dar kaise chodiye jo dar aisa hoye. If this is the kind of place This is the kind of state of existence. If that level of existence is there, and we know such a place exists, then why we are looking for anything else? Why we go anywhere else? Why strive for anywhere else? Where we always have the risk of being turned away. Which is what happens in our life, all of us. What is the most fear in every human's life? Fear of rejection. One thing that we don't want is to be rejected. Because what happens when we are rejected? The ego hurts. Something in us dies. So rejection is something that I am not willing to. I rather not ask. I rather not seek. I rather not desire. I rather not want. But I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to be turned down. Kabir says there is only one place where it is guaranteed you will not be turned away, provided you don't leave that door. But what happens with us is this. Someone will say, do this and you'll be accepted. So we wait for a while, we are not accepted. And somebody else comes on and says, why are you wasting your time here? Do that and you'll be accepted. So we immediately get up and we do that. So what is that quotation in English which says, rolling stones gather no moss? Our faith is absolutely so unstable because the desire, we think that as we do business in the outside world, so is the case of this world also. And that ain't the case. If the desire that we have is not being fulfilled, that in itself is a sure sign that we are not ready yet. When the disciple is ready, master comes. Has never failed this law. If the master hasn't come, it does not mean the master isn't there. It doesn't mean the master is wrong. It doesn't mean the master is not paying attention. It doesn't mean that master is not capable. It only means that the disciple isn't ready yet. But our faith is shaken very easily. What did Jesus say when he was tempted to test? Go, walk on the water. You won't sink. Jump out of the hill and you will not die. What was the answer? The answer was, if I jump, it means I am testing my Father. And if I am testing my Father, it means I have a doubt on Him. When there is no doubt, what's the need of a test? I don't doubt Him. For me, there is no need to find out whether my Father loves the only begotten Son or not. I already know it. And nobody is going to tell me otherwise. Look what happens to us. Next door neighbor will come and say, I saw your man walking with her or talking with her or having dinner with so and so. And the man comes home and the wife is standing with a rod in his hand. Where were you? Now the interesting thing is, the neighbor has nothing else to do. You have no bond, no relationship, nothing. No investment. No matter what the man says, or the woman for that matter says, that statement will be true and all these statements will be wrong. Isn't it? And then we declare, now watch what is going to happen. America is going to spend a ton of money on Valentine's Day. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. What is the definition of your love? What have you understood by that word? What is your faith? What is your trust? How do you define these terms? How much do you live these terms? And Kabir says, once you understand that, you will discover that everywhere else, every other relationship in human existence has built-in rejection. No exception to the rule. And I mean no disrespect to any one of the people sitting here. I'm sharing with you from that mystical state of existence. Mother's love is considered to be totally unconditional, totally unfailing. You can look inside that what will happen to you if your own child was to turn out exactly the opposite of your wishes and your desires and your dreams. And he or she does exactly the opposite of what you want. What will happen to your love? What kind of love there will be? Think about it. Leo Tolstoy wrote a small novel with the title Love or Lust. And the drama is that there is a train, and in the train the passengers are sitting together and passing the time, and the subject of love starts. And everybody is giving the theories about love. And there is only one passenger who, no matter what type of love story is, he eventually brings them back to saying it wasn't love, it was lust. Every relation is analyzed, including the relations of a child and the mother. Those of you who are interested, it's a very small novel. Read it and see the arguments. They will absolutely shake the basic foundation up. Kabir is today hammering on that thought. He says there is only one such place where no soul, no body, no human or animal or bird is turned away, provided you go sit there, provided you are willing to accept that. कबीर डूबा था तय उभरियो गुल की लहर चबक जब देखियो बेड़ा जर्जरा तब उतर पर्यो हम फर्क. Look at the example he's sharing. He says, if there is a boat and the boat has holes in it, and you know it is catching water, you know the boat is going to sink sooner or later. Would you stay in that boat? Kabir, look at the second statement and the first statement that connects with it. Jab dekhiyo beda jarjara. Beda means boat. Jarjara means the one who is not solid. One which has holes in it, which is going to fall apart. So which is that beda? What is that boat he's talking about? He's talking about his body. Kabir डूबा था तय उभरे. He says, I was also in the same trap. I would have sunk into the maya, into the world of senses, just the same. But ubhayo, this is I rose up. How? Gul ki lahar chabak. He says a wave. Look, he's not taking the credit. This is that a wave from the ocean came and woke me up and said, the boat that you are riding is going to sink. So get off the boat. Do something different. So what did I do? जब देखियो बेड़ा जर्जरा तब उतर पड़े हो हाँ फर्क. I immediately got off that boat. What is that boat? The love of the senses. The complete involvement, complete getting lost into the total sensual pleasures of the outer world. And he says the senses 9 doors that leave the energy outside. I shut the 9 doors, and suddenly the 10th door opened. And as we go further, we will see that he will use that example, literally that, where he says that Gur Dikhlai Mori. He says, my master, Guru, showed me where the leakage of the energy is. He said, then what did I do? He said, Mundaliye darwaje vajiye lahana hadbaje. He says, then I close all those doors. I shut them up. As soon as the teacher, as soon as the master pointed me out, eyes are doing this, the ears are doing this, the mouth is doing this, the nose is doing this. As soon as the senses are doing that, every sense slowly and slowly and slowly I transcended it, shut it up. And then something else opened. Mundaliye darwaje, bajiyele anhat baje. Then I'm hearing the soundless sound. I shut that ear from the outer sound, outer noise, the inner sound, inner music, cosmic music started. Kabir, Ved muwa rogi muwa sab sansar ek kabira na muwa je nahi ro nahar. So he's talking of that, he continues on the same theme, that boat which is eventually going to be destroyed, it is going to sink. He says it is not only a story of one person, it's not the story of one type of life form. He says it is the story for everyone. Veda muwa, rogi muwa. The person, so long as they are attached with the body, and he uses the example of a doctor and a patient. What is the doctor doing? Treating the body. What is the patient doing? Looking for the relief to the pain in the body. So long as the focus is on the body, and they forget that the body eventually drops, the container eventually drops, only the content remains. So long as they do not remember that, they will remain in the same pain, the same cycle. He says you need to remember kya? Ek kabira naam hua je nahi rovanaha. There is only one that does not drop, because that's a containerless, that's all pervading. Whatever is in a container, the container is going to drop. So the one who is free of the container, that is the one which you want to get focused on. And the last statement for this evening, Kabir, Ram na dhyayo, meti lagi khor, moti lagi khor, kaya handi kaat ki na o chare behor. So he's hammering on the same thought. He says, watch it. Just as a pot made of wood, you put it on the fire with the intention of cooking something, what happens to it? It burns. Right? If you have a pot of the wood and you put it in the fire, you think you're going to cook something. But that's not what happens. The pot burns. You see, that's what the body is. You think that you are putting it to the right use, but it is not. What you think you are doing, that's not the right use. What the right use is? You have not done what it was meant to be. Kabir Ram na dhyayo. You have not meditated. You have not used the body for the purpose for which it was given to you. Moti lagi khor. Khor means it's going to start khorjana. It's going to start dropping down. Kaya handi kaat. Since body is a pot made out of wooden. If it's made of wood, o chare beho, now o chare beho. It says it cannot stay on. It cannot serve the purpose. You are trying to do something for which it was not meant to be. Its purpose was to feel the ultimate blissful state.